Hello everybody, and welcome at long last to my review for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I know it's taken about a month and a half to finally do this review, but I wanted this to be the best, most in-depth review I have ever done for one of the biggest and most content-packed games that Nintendo has ever made. This review will be done a little bit differently than my past reviews. Instead of doing 5 out of 5, it'll be out of 100 points. So, there's a lot more at stake, and I will be covering aspects most pertinent to Smash Bros. As a franchise in this game in particular, focusing on the fighter roster, the stages, multiplayer gameplay, single player, along with presentation, and of course, overall fun. I worked very hard on this review with the editing and everything else, getting the music synced up, so I really do hope you enjoy this. And I apologize if there's some reused footage there, although I did try to diversify the footage as much as possible. The Super Smash Bros. Franchise has always been a very special fighting game series. Where else can you see Link go at it with Donkey Kong? How about Mario going toe-to-toe with Samus? There are few Nintendo releases that bring the fanbase together in celebration quite like Super Smash Bros. Being the 5th home console installment, Smash Bros. Ultimate had a lot to live up to. Did it live up to its name? In short, unquestionably. It would be easy enough to call this game the most refined and polished Smash Bros. Game to date, but it goes deeper than that. There are many factors to consider in looking at this game, and I intend to do just that. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, a cup of decaf, tea, or whatever your drink of choice is, and enjoy my review for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate! Presentation. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has the highest production values one would come to expect from a first-party Nintendo game, particularly crafted by Masahiro Sakurai's Sora Unlimited. All of the character fighter models look better than they've ever looked. The stages themselves looked absolutely stunning, and several of the older stages from past games have been nearly completely revamped, looking simply incredible. Even the retro N64 stages still have their charm to them, though they have been rezzed up significantly. Now the menu for this game is miles and miles ahead of the atrocious menu from Smash Bros. For Wii U, which was a complete and utter mess. Scrolling through the menu is like cutting through Jello this time around, and the simple yet slick sound effects are surprisingly fun as always. Smash Bros. Has always been a game that prides itself on its soundtrack. Every Smash Bros. Game has gotten more and more varied and impressive with its music selection, and, as one might expect, that remains true here in Smash Bros. Ultimate. This might be the most varied and complete soundtrack not just in Smash Bros., but in gaming history, period. Not only does this game include tracks from series staples like Mario, Metroid, Star Fox, and Zelda, but many brand new tracks from the Castlevania series this time around, as well as some original pieces such as Lifelight, the main theme for this game. Now, it would have been a little nice to have more Final Fantasy tracks, but even still, it really feels like the game went all out with its music selection. The compositions are top-notch and a true feast for the ears. The presentation for this game, all in all, is as good as it could have been, and it is more than deserving of full marks in this capacity. Gameplay. As with all Smash Bros. Games prior, Ultimate has incredibly responsive and crisp controls. The speed of the game feels just right, and after you get the hang of the simple, easy-to-use controls, they really become like second nature. I have found myself playing with the Switch Pro controller, and have felt surprisingly right at home with it. Gameplay itself is some of the most refined and polished that I have ever played in a Nintendo game. The overall gameplay isn't radically different from past Smash Bros. Games, but here the developers found a way to please all fans, both hardcore as well as casual. This is done through smartly making the game more offense rather than defense experience compared to Smash Wii U, looking at which characters needed buffing and nerfing in certain areas, and speeding up the pace of the game from the previous experience. Newcomers and veteran Smash players alike can jump right into this game and have a blast playing it, something that the Smash team undoubtedly made a priority. The game is perfect for both competitive and casual play. The whole experience just feels incredibly slick and fine-tuned in every match, Whether you are playing a one-on-one fight or a 4 or more player battle, the gameplay is simply top-notch. Characters and stages. As you might have already gathered, every character is here. This means that every single fighter from past Smash Bros. Games has returned for this ultimate installment. The character roster is more than 70 fighters, with DLC fighters coming on the way later this year. Absolutely insane. While you start the game with only the original 8 fighters from Smash 64, the game throws newcomers your way very, very often. After playing a certain number of matches, you will see the fighter challenge screen pop up regularly. You can also get these fighters through World of Light, but that takes a little longer than is worth it, in my personal estimation. Now there are pros and cons to this way of acquiring fighters. Where you get the full roster much faster, they don't often feel as rewarding to unlock as in the past games. With that said, the last handful of fighters I had to unlock did feel quite challenging, requiring multiple tries throughout. Many of the characters have been tweaked just a little bit, while some remained largely the same, like the jack-of-all-trades Mario. Link, now sporting his Breath of the Wild appearance, feels like an overhaul compared to the previous Smash Bros. Incarnations. Sure, he still has the same basic moveset, but his grab no longer utilizes the hookshot and the bombs must be set off manually. All in all though, Link is a character that feels and plays much better this time around. Also, Ganondorf is more than just a Falcon clone, as he actually uses his sword and it's wicked awesome. That said, both Young Link and Toon Link are in this game for those that want a more quote-unquote traditional Link fighter. Fox, Falco, and Wolf also feel more unique from one another this time around, but my favorite of the trio has to be Wolf. He just has the right mix of aggression and dexterity and ferocity among the Fox trio. I can't express how awesome it is to have fighters like Snake back at last. Even the Ice Climbers return, and they sat the last game out. There are simply too many characters for me to go through each of them, but I want to focus on my favorite newcomers. While the newcomers are few, each one of them feels like they had the utmost effort put into making them authentic to their franchise. The Inklings literally splat opponents with paint, for instance, and they must refill their paintball packs after a little while. When I first learned that Ridley was going to be in this game, I freaked out, for good reason. Not only does Ridley look awesome, but he plays very uniquely. It did take me a little while to get the hang of his character at first, but once I did, I have had tons of fun with this Space Pirate Commander. His moveset feels lifted straight from Super Metroid, and his dash and down attacks pack a powerful punch. Not to mention his final smash is amazing. Other characters I've had a blast playing with are Simon and Richter Belmont from Castlevania. Finally! Being that they both utilize whips, they provide fighters that we really haven't seen much in Smash Bros. As of yet. They both feel great to play as. Simon is a slightly more bulky of the two, being a little stronger, while Richter is nimbler and faster. They throw axes, holy water, and even crosses as part of their attacks. Even though I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan, I've really enjoyed Incineroar. His side B move is especially fun to use on opponents. But by far, my favorite newcomer is none other than King K. Rool. That's right, the Kremling King is finally here in Smash Bros., and he is awesome. K. Rool takes moves from all of his Donkey Kong video game appearances. His character is bulky, but hard to launch. K. Rool's down B special involves knocking fighters in every direction with his belly. K. Rool throws his crown, shoots cannonballs, and even punches opponents with his boxing mitt. K. Rool also has the coolest final smash where he knocks fighters into DK Island and blows it up with his Blast-O-Matic. Now Sakurai found a clever way to incorporate more fighters without having to make a completely new fighter or a clone character. These are called Echo Fighters. Essentially, these are fighters that play like the same character that they're based off of, but with a few key differences. For example, Simon and Richter Belmont are Echo Fighters of one another. They both have the same basic moveset, but some nuanced differences. Other Echo Fighters include Daisy and Peach, Marth and Lucina, Samus and Dark Samus, and Ryu and Ken. Of all the Echo Fighters, I like Dark Samus the most, by far. While I love Samus Aran, Dark Samus just feels more comfortable and satisfying to play as for me. Her animations are more slick, and the moveset just feels more fluid in its motion. Dark Samus is a character I have enjoyed playing immensely. There are some gripes I have with the fighter roster, however. For one, some of the fighters still feel a tad OP, such as Bayonetta and Cloud. Also, with all the other Echo Fighters, why the heck wasn't Dixie Kong included as an Echo for Diddy Kong? I mean, come on! Dixie's a fan favorite, and could have made a great and unique alternative for Diddy Kong. And also, Sakurai, no Waluigi. Now, as with Brawl and Smash Bros. For Wii U, the fighters all have their final smashes. These are enabled when a fighter hits the glowing Smash Ball enough times and unlocks its power. This can also be done by turning on the Final Smash meter. Final Smashes this time around are quite varied, and some of them made my jaw drop when I first witnessed them. One of my favorites is Ridley smashing an opponent into Samus' ship and then destroying it with his fierce, fiery breath. I just love Zelda's Final Smash as well, as she engulfs an opponent in the Triforce of Wisdom and hurls them off the stage. Along with all of the characters, Smash Ultimate brings with it a truly staggering amount of stages to play on. These include stages from every Smash Bros. Game, including a few that haven't been in Smash since the 64 days, such as Saffron City, which is great to see again in this game. As with the characters, there are simply too many stages to go fully in depth with all of them. But my favorite returning stages include Temple from Melee, yeah, Meat Grinder baby, as well as Lilac Cruise and Shadow Moses Island from Brawl. Along with Electro-Plankin for some reason. What were you guys smoking when you made that stage? I also love the Coliseum stage, the Fire Emblem stage from Smash 4. There are even stages from the 3DS game, such as Gerudo Valley, that look absolutely gorgeous now in high definition. As with the characters, I will be focusing primarily on the new stages this time around. The Splatoon stage is a set of ramps that feels perfectly tailored for the Inkling character and is based off one of the multiplayer maps from the game in question. It's a fun and colorful stage to play on. New Donk City Hall is based on Super Mario Odyssey, and it's really cool how the stage rotates upward as you fight. I also love how this stage includes Mayor Pauline's band playing throughout and being just an insanely fun stage. Now, the Great Plateau Tower from Breath of the Wild is an instant favorite of mine, and it captures the essence of Breath of the Wild's tower, and it even incorporates some of the interactive nature from the game in question, with being able to destroy the top of the tower, watch it crumble away, and then come back up a little bit later. The background also has to be one of my favorites in the whole game. I mean, just look at it. My all-time favorite new stage, however, is none other than Dracula's Castle from Castlevania. The dark and eerie atmosphere of this stage just feels so unique among any other stage that has ever been in Smash Bros. Seeing all of these mythical monsters show up is so cool, and is complemented by some of the best music tracks in the entire game. One of the nice inclusions for this game is being able to play the stages in both Final Destination mode as well as Battlefield mode. This is a godsend for some stages, as it means you can enjoy the awesome backgrounds and music without having to deal with all of the stage hazards if you wish to do so. Now I can listen to the amazing music on Big Blue without having to constantly jump from car to car. As with the characters, I love the stage variety, but I almost wish for just a little bit more. And I know that sounds a little spoiled of me, but why not have a new Donkey Kong stage based on Tropical Freeze? I mean, that was such an awesome game. Or even a new Fire Emblem stage. I also would be lying if I said I didn't miss some of the old stages, such as Donkey Kong Country Returns from Wii U, which I know a lot of people didn't like that stage, but I did. That said, all in all, the character and stage selections in this game is the best it has ever been. Even with some mild gripes, the fighters are mostly very well balanced and extremely unique. The stage selection is absolutely blows all other Smash Bros. Games out of the water. Multiplayer! Now, the true test of any good Smash Bros. Game's worth is, of course, its multiplayer. And I can tell you, this game does not let down one bit. There is nothing quite like getting together with friends and smashing the living tar out of each other. These are matches that can get absolutely chaotic when you have several people playing at once. As the fighters are beaten and it comes down to the last two fighters, every single move feels critical. It's an experience unlike very many. I, for one, have always favored couch multiplayer experiences above all else. This game reminds me of the days when I would be a kid playing Smash Bros. 64 or Melee with my friends and family members in the TV room for hours on end, especially when I had my slumber party. This game is so perfectly made for couch multiplayer that just about anyone can jump in and have an absolute blast. Playing with 4 people is definitely ideal. The one-on-one fights are also very fun and satisfying showdowns. This game allows for up to 8-player Smash Brothers in all stages. Now I find this to be a little bit hit or miss, as having too many players on screen can make it very hard to even find your own fighter, particularly in some stages that are simply too small to accommodate such a large number of players. Still, it can be very fun to do on stages that are large enough for such things, such as Guar Plains. As with previous Smash Bros. Games, Ultimate has the option to play with items as varying degrees, or no items at all. The game features more assist trophies than previous titles. Some of them include none other than Alucard, Fils-Aime, and others. Assist trophies seem to stay around longer this time, sometimes even too long in my mind. That said, you have the ability to attack them this time around, which is pretty cool. Smash Bros. Ultimate also has numerous online modes and options. This has been a point of some contention for this title, as it has been a hit or miss experience. I believe a lot of it has to do with the connection. Frankly, for myself, I have had quite a positive online experience. 70% of the time I've played this game, I've been able to get some good matches in. That said, there have been a few instances that have been nearly unplayable due to the atrocious lag. Overall, my experience playing online with friends, though, has been very, very spotless. The multiplayer in Smash Bros. Ultimate will just keep you coming back for years and years on end, possibly decades to come. You might even never need a Smash Bros. Game after this one, just given how much replayability there is in the multiplayer alone. There are frankly few multiplayer games or games period that can hold a candle to the longevity and fun found in this title. Warning, there will be spoilers in this section. Thank you for sticking around this long. This is where I talk about the single player experience. Now, Smash Bros. Games have never made the single player modes their main focus, nor should they, as it's a multiplayer experience first and foremost. All that to say, having something substantial to do in Smash Bros. On your own has always added another layer to the game in my opinion. Take Melee's Adventure Mode, where you had to make your way through several labyrinthine mazes and fights, or Brawl's Subspace Emissary Mode, a full-fledged 8-hour story mode. While sometimes a little basic, they nonetheless created another little dimension to the game in its context. Smash Bros. For Wii U was simply lacking in this department, having only the classic mode and the joke of a campaign called Smash Tour. Smash Ultimate seeks to rectify this significantly by having a very robust and surprisingly varied single-player option. The first thing I want to discuss is the classic mode. This new take on classic mode is probably the best that Smash Bros. Has ever had. Every time you go through it, the mode is tailored to the fighter in question. For instance, playing as Little Mac has you fight in a one-on-one sparring matches. Playing as any of the Links involves dueling other sword or magic-wielding fighters, and more besides. The classic mode doesn't take too long to go through, and the difficulty settings can be toggled. Right before the final fight, there is a single minigame where you just run through a maze collecting orbs and being chased by a dark energy wall. It is a little repetitive, but I still enjoy it and like racking up as many points as I can. That said, I still wish they would have included the target practice mode in platform boarding. What really makes this classic mode special is how certain characters actually have to fight full-on bosses at the end, not just Master Hand. For example, playing as any of the Zelda characters as you face off against Ganon as he appeared in Ocarina of Time. Simon and Richter Belmont must fight the Prince of Darkness himself, Dracula. Now these boss fights aren't just generic palette swaps, as the developers went out of their way to pay homage to the franchises, and the fights demonstrate that. They are easily the highlight of the single-player mode. That said, many of the fighters just fight Master Hand, and it's somewhat disappointing that the developers didn't include a few more boss fights. This is especially true for Samus, as she could have had an awesome Mother Brain battle. It's just a real shame they didn't go all out in that department for every major character. The thing that I'm sure most people still watching this are interested to hear my thoughts on is none other than the Spirit Mode. The Spirit Mode is a system that requires you to battle, well, spirits. This essentially means that any fighter from the Smash Bros. Roster is modified to possess characteristics of fighters or characters from a multitude of franchises. These are two ways you can go about these challenges. The first way is through the Spirit Board, which is a mode in which you partake in challenges that are similar to event matches from previous titles, only they are randomized. You choose a character and a fighter's spirit, which imbues you with certain advantages or disadvantages depending on the scenario. The challenge level varies from easy to very, very difficult. After winning one of these matches, you must then free the spirit by shooting the frozen fighter in place while you avoid hitting a rotating ring of light. Again, this can be easy or very tricky depending on the stats of the spirit in question. Once you free the spirit, you can then equip it for your own use. These can even be used in multiplayer matches, which I haven't tried yet. Now, the big draw of Spirits Mode is of course the World of Light. This is a fully fledged single-player campaign that functions much like something in between the Subspace Emissary and event matches. It opens up with a cutscene where a being known as Galeem completely wipes out everything and everyone in its path. This includes every single fighter, assist fighter, and spirit. The only surviving figure is Kirby. Surprise! It's then your job to set off into this world in order to free all the fighters and spirits from Limbo. You traverse this mode through a beautiful painterly map, and I mean beautiful, with many varied locales and set pieces. The map was honestly one of my favorite aspects of this mode, as every location looked very unique. Some of the highlights for me, however, including scaling Dracula's castle, fighting more sinister monsters as you make your way to fight the Vampire Lord. I also loved the Zelda-inspired map known as the Sacred Land, where you solve a few puzzle-like barriers and find secret paths, such as one in the Lost Woods. The world map itself is quite varied, and the actual encounters are also pretty fun for the most part. Many of the fights are very challenging, while some are a little by the numbers and repetitive. I enjoyed the mode's use of the skill tree and having to match a spirit with a fighter depending on the battle situation. Some fights have electric floors or invisible enemies. There are fights where you have to go in with lots of stamina. Some spirits benefit brute force, while others increase speed or weapons. You can level up these spirits, of course, and have them engage in certain activities along the way. The mode itself is quite lengthy, taking at least 15 hours to get through, freeing many fighters and spirits along the way. This is nice in that it makes the single-player mode meatier, but it's also something that I would recommend being done in shorter doses, depending on your playstyle, of course. I do believe that if you were to stick with it, the final boss encounter alone makes the mode worth it. Speaking of which, World of Light has a handful of boss fights you must engage with. Some of these are the same as they were in Classic mode, but they're no less awesome. For example, you can now fight Dracula while playing as Link, or take on Ganon as Ganondorf. The final encounter in World of Light is supremely well done and just downright epic. It really caps off the whole experience very nicely. For the first time in Smash Bros. History, you get to play as Master Hand himself, and it's as awesome as you would expect. Furthermore, there's even a brief platforming section right after this where you take on every single fighter in sequence. Of course, you then have the insane final boss fight between both Galeem and Darkon. Hey, I said there'd be spoilers! I would have honestly liked to see more platforming sections in World of Light like the one we had near the end, such as having more maze-like stages to go through, rather than just having it be all fights, as I did reminisce a little bit about Subspace in Melee's adventure mode while playing this, as much fun as I did have most of the time. Now all that to say, I still really enjoyed World of Light, and I felt satiated overall in my experience with it. While the single-player modes have a few missing pieces, admittedly, it still has by far probably the best that Smash Bros. Has ever seen. The replay value in Smash Bros. Ultimate completely and utterly dwarfs that of almost any other game on the Switch right now. This is a game that you will be playing for a very long time. There are so many fighters to play as, stages to play on, music tracks to listen to, modes to partake in. While it's a shame that there are no trophies to collect this time around, there are still tons and tons of spirits to collect, and the game is, to be honest, simply addicting. You will find yourself saying just one more game, only to play 5 or 10 or 15 more. You won't be putting this game down for a very long time, if ever. This game will be played for years, if not decades. Alright, on to fun. If you've stuck with me this long, you know by now that Smash Bros. Ultimate is an incredibly meaty and massive game. But how fun is it actually? The answer is incredibly so. I have had an utter blast with this game, and in fact I've had more fun with this game than I have with the Smash Bros. Game in more than 10 years. This is a game that simply begs for you to play it over and over again, and you would be hard-pressed to have so much fun with any other multiplayer game. So what's my verdict on this game? It would be very, very hard for one to really make a compelling argument that Smash Bros. Ultimate isn't the best Smash Bros. Game to date. It's a game that is so refined and polished that I can't see myself putting it down anytime soon. Sure, it's not perfect. Yeah, there are a few missed opportunities that held aspects of it back just a little bit, but at the end of the day, this is probably one of Nintendo's most polished experiences to date, and one really only they could ever provide. It is the definitive multiplayer game for the Nintendo Switch. Now, the game is the 5th game in a series, and thus isn't super groundbreaking or franchise-defining in the way Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild were, and how they completely changed or challenged the conventions of their respective franchises, but it is nonetheless a must-buy for the Nintendo Switch. I would honestly not be bummed if they never make a Smash Bros. Game after this, as this one truly is good enough to warrant its name of being the ultimate Smash Bros. Game. Sakurai did not let us down with this installment, and I am so very happy to award Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with a whopping 97 out of 100. I just want to say thank you so very much for watching this video, my most in-depth and longest review to date. I don't know if I'll ever make a review as long as this one again, or take this long to actually get a review of an exciting new game out ever again, but I just want to say thank you for those that stuck with this, and thank you for those that have stuck with my channel for the last 2 years, and I really know I've come a long way in my video quality, and I just hope to keep improving from here on out. Thank you so much. Subscribe to my channel. Please leave a like and share this video. Share it with friends. And I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm going to go play some matches.
Welcome, punch!